I'm actually running two different compressors on my two bus, and I'm using them for two very different reasons. The first thing that my mix is hitting is the Manley Varimu. And the reason I'm hitting that is I just like the sound of it. I like the tube saturation, I like the coloration of it. And I'm not really even using it that much for gain reduction. It really just is something where a dB or so of compression on that really changes the sound in a way that I like. But if I really want to push it to start molding and manipulating the envelope or the dynamic range, that's not the best tool for me for those applications. So I'm actually running the nail right after that and using the nail to manipulate and control dynamics and be able to, again, change the envelopes in interesting ways. And as I said earlier, the thing I really like about the nail is that it's got a really sweet sound to it, but it's not overbearing, even when you start to do some more extreme things with it. I'll give you a quick example on this instrumental version of the mix we're working on. Just by manipulating the attack, I've got the attack's really slow, letting all the punch of the snare and the kick come through. But as I start speeding up that attack, we start to rope in the punch, going from here, where there's not much punch coming through the kick and the snare at all, to all of it coming through. That's pretty extreme there. We're doing about close to 10 dB of gain reduction on a stereo mix. That's actually more than I would normally do, unless I was doing something for particular creative reasons. But what I love about this unit is that it allows me to do these real extreme things, again, without overpowering the mix with its own color. So, again, wide open here, really roped in, again, 10 dB or so, and it's still actually a nice even balance. I mean, it's still got the tone of the guitars that I spent all the time trying to dial in on the console. It's got the tone of the kick drum. It's just roped in the attack. So it allows me to do things if I want to push levels harder or push a percussion element back into the mix. I can just speed up the attack to push that transient back into the mix, or I can slow up the attack and let that come through and punch a little bit more. So this is actually a really cool unit. This can go very fast. There's a lot of bass in this mix, which actually I'm just going to mute the bass for a minute, just because it's going to make it a little easier to show some of these things. Because as I'm sure you all know, really fast attacks and release on compressors will induce distortion. It's just going to happen by virtue of compression. But taking the bass out, we're doing about 15 dB of gain reduction. And you can hear how the transients and attacks have really been softened up, all the percussion elements. And now those are starting to come out. And the coolest thing that the nail does, in my experience so far, is listen how the tonal balances of the instruments don't really change dramatically. And that's what makes this such an interesting, cool complement to the other compressors I already have in my collection, where other compressors, with some other compressors, you might actually push things really hard just to bring out more of that coloration. But if you still want to do those extreme settings of gain reduction, you know, transient manipulation, and you don't want the color of the compressor really coming in overpowering, you know, sometimes a great vintage 1176 or an LA2A isn't going to be the right tool for the job. And traditionally, that's an area where I might have jumped over to my plug-in collection, just because they can usually do things cleaner. But when you push them hard, things start to lose some character and vibe to them. Whereas the nail seems to allow me to do those kinds of things in a much more balanced, clean way, allowing me to preserve the integrity of the spectrum of the instruments that I work so hard to get.